I have given you so many tips, tricks, and lessons in acting, and today we are privileged to have powerhouse character actor Daniel Roebuck, and he's going to say how he used them all.
Acting Class Weekly with legendary character actor Sean Whalen. Lessons, tips, and insight into the craft and business of acting from a man who's been directed by the likes of Spielberg, Eastwood, Tim Burton, Ang Lee, Michael Bay, Wes Craven, Tom Hanks, and many more of Hollywood's A-list. He is 30 years an actor and your professor, Sean Whalen.
I am so excited, Roxy, that I wore the double blue. I break it out very rarely because she was quite jealous when I wore it last time.
You saw me today and you said, you're going to be angry.
Right.
You're going to be angry.
Right.
It's
And
not
she
an
corrected
anger,
me.
it's a jealousy,
She's
and I'm
jealous.
working on it.
She's jealous because the blue and the eye blue is just a
Triple
pops.
blue. It's triple blue.
It's triple blue.
Why don't we call it what it is? Let's call a blue a blue. It's
Let's
triple
call it blue. It's triple blue. And
Rubs
if
it
you
in.
recognize that voice you heard, it's my good friend Daniel Roebuck is here with us today, along with, and see, I'm switching it up, along with Ms. Phenomenal, Roxy Striar.
That is true. I'm glad that we talked about it.
we work out issues here.
Very true.
Solidly communicating. And Mr. Funtabulous, Jeff Graham, is with us today as well, as always, our producer.
And very excited. Such an honor to have you in, Danny. I feel like I have so many different references for you as an actor, just kind of growing up seeing you on our screen. So really cool to have you in here.
Thank you. Thank you, disembodied voice, Jeff.
You're the voice of God.
Yes. So listen, and I've talked about all these different tips and tricks, like I said in the cold open, attitude, preparing for auditions. And I know Danny and I overlap so much on so many things the way we believe, but then, as always, everybody's process is a little different. And so there are some questions and some things I'd love to talk to Danny about that may be a little different than mine, but they work, and they've worked for him. He has over 230 credits on IMDb.
239.
239,
including upcoming things.
and I've said that when you see those, one credit could be 10 episodes of a series. So he has many credits, and we are honored to have you here today.
Well, I'm honored to be here in between this illustrious company.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And I see that they've made it a single,
yes,
which you should have because you're the star.
Okay.
And a two-shot. But it turns out that the two best-looking people are on one side, and then,
But we don't have the blue thing.
Yeah, we don't have the
going
triple
on.
blue. We don't have the
triple
blue job going.
Well, see, the overwhelming triple blue is so magnanimous.
Yeah, you can't have someone
really.
You can't have someone so close.
You can't have someone
no,
so close.
I wish people could be here with us to see this in person.
Yes, just to see this. You can see this all for our YouTube watchers. Obviously, you'll see it. But the people who are listening to it, you will know that I have my blue jacket, my blue T-shirt, my beautiful blue eyes, which I always have
it's like Paul Newman at the beach in Hawaii on a beautiful blue day. That's what I'm seeing here.
And you guys are a Midwestern couple in Saugus or something.
Yeah, we're from Saugus, and
we're in Saugus.
Yeah, but we're happy to be here.
Rustic, rustic.
See,
a little more
I
rustic.
immediately started improving.
Yeah, there we go.
In your cereal this morning.
Right, okay. All right. So today we're going to go over, as another thing I've learned is to tease the show based on Mr. Fantabulous. Jeff told me this idea. We're going to talk to Danny. We're going to go over some of the episodes that I've talked about, and Danny's going to talk about how he has applied what we've talked about on this show. And then at the end, if you stick around, you'll hear about two shows, one on Disney Channel and one very big ABC show that Danny and I both worked on together and were there at the same time, and in different exotic locations. So that's a big tease.
That's a good
So you're
tease.
going to want to stick around for that.
Hey, listen, don't go anyway because we might give something away.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know
What are we going to give away?
I don't know how we do. Well, we're going to give away great information,
Right,
to help actors.
Yes,
to sail this mountainous wall of show business.
I thought you were going to
go.
say Sean's jacket. He wasn't going to be happy about that.
Or you could just pull my eyes out in the alley. Okay, and then before we do that, as always, we are going to talk about Sean's week. Danny, be excited, be grateful because you're going to hear the opening to Sean's Week live. Ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Sean's Week.
Nice. Hey, that was good.
That was it, actually.
That was the
entire
thing?
That was the entire thing. Short and sweet.
So, that was right. That was very a deer, a female.
Yes.
You guys had that.
Right, and it was just saying like doe a, and then you're done.
Kind of working my whole life on that moment, though.
Yeah.
So your lack of enthusiasm is
a little rough.
A little disrespectful, but I guess I know what we're getting now.
Right. And so my week, Crust, as you know, my film that I cut down from a feature now to 27 minutes. It's a much more trimmer version. We wanted to trim it a little more. We gave it to Doug. As you guys remember, Doug came in here and talked about story points and how to create a sketch, beginning, middle, and end, and he helped trim it down, and that was really great. And then another thing that happened this week was that I was recovering from an illness. That's why I wasn't on last week, guys, so I apologize for that. And I also want to just touch on, please listen to the Dealing with Rejection episode. I had a real life case of this with someone who I was working with in a teacher-student capacity that, their issues unfortunately made it too hard to continue to work with. And
they were not okay with being rejected by you?
Well, just there, and in that episode, I know it was called rejection, but it's really the insecurities, the mental anguish that you bring to your workplace. If you can't keep that in check, it makes it very difficult. So I don't want to go too where and how and all that kind of stuff, but I will just tell you it's really, really important because unfortunately, one of the best writers and talented actors that I've worked with, but because of that, it made it an impasse. So please take care of that. Another funny thing is I am listening to, I don't know why I say another funny thing. Another funny thing.
That whole thing about rejection is really funny to that guy.
Super funny.
Pretty great. It was awesome that we can't work together anymore. It's pretty funny, but it's also funny.
Yeah.
I can't
By
wait
the way,
for
here's a cyanide capsule.
So obviously I haven't learned transitions really well from Roxy yet.
But I'm excited for this funny story now.
This funny story, this will be even funnier, if you can imagine.
This is right up there with, the Holocaust.
I don't know how it tops that, but
funny.
right alongside.
But, and this will dovetail into Danny, which I didn't even know till this afternoon, but I'm listening, I've told you guys I've been listening to audiobooks a lot lately of actors. For some reason, I'm just diving in. So the very sweet voice of Gene Wilder talking very nicely, kind of the hyper-erratic voice of Anna Kendrick, Alec Baldwin's very, straight, kind of gravelly voice. And then I pick up and start to listen to Garry Marshall's book. And my God, his cadence is just one you've never, he talks up, and he calls it, and we worked on Happy Days. Happy Days was and it's just so funny, and you really have to take a moment to go, okay, this is going to be what I'm listening to for 10 hours. He's just got the strongest New York accent, the weirdest cadence.
Does it work for you ultimately, though, or
I
no?
mean, his information is so great. It's just lovely.
But do you almost wish that it was a regular reader reading?
The first 10 minutes, I literally had to stop and go, okay, am I going to make the 10 hours? But then I just kind of slowly got used to it. But it was definitely a jarring transition from those other people.
What's interesting to me about Garry Marshall, and it is a good transition.
It's a good transition.
Yeah, because I played him in a movie. I had to play Garry, and he pauses in the weirdest places, and he talks like this. Anyway, he actually sounds exactly like, forgive me, Phil, the actor who played Laverne's dad.
Okay.
He used to write jokes for him, as you learned in that book.
Yes.
And that guy talks the same way. Now, when you think about it, the guy played Laverne's dad in Laverne and Shirley.
Right.
And now overlay Garry Marshall.
Right.
The exact same delivery, the exact same delivery. So he learned that from the other guy when he did. Now, when I played Garry, of course, on TV, somebody said I overacted. But I thought, have you not seen it
No.
and spent time with him? Because this is how he talks.
And this is another overlap, is that I worked with Garry on Never Been Kissed. And he sat next to me. And in the bleacher scenes, if you guys remember, he was one of the boss at the newspaper, and he came in and he improvised this line, and they kept it. And he goes, "It's a baseball game. We need wieners. We need wieners. Somebody, go get us some wieners if it's a baseball game." You know, and it's just a tremendous talent. Amazing. Tremendous talent.
We quote all the time: "Your meals, your room, comped free." From Lost in America. I realize you've lost a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Your meals, your room, comped free.
Yeah. So that's. I'm having fun listening to Garry Marshall. So that's my week. So I don't want to waste any more time. But before we jump into Danny and how we met and going into all the lessons, Roxy would like to talk about. I have no transition with the Garry Marshall.
This. Yeah, it was so good.
It was
job,
so bad.
Sean. You touched a little bit on this earlier, and I made a face because I was so proud of you. You talked about how you could find us on YouTube, or you could be listening
See
to
that?
us.
I know, you're
You're
look very
already
proud.
starting to transition in the plugs. But basically, guys, wherever you are, give us that 5-star, that thumbs up. If you want to see the beautiful faces that we've been talking about, go to YouTube. Do that thumbs up, write a comment. We love reading what it is that you guys have to say. Also, on Spotify, on SoundCloud, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, we're there as well. Some really valuable advice. Sean's talking about other episodes that you can go check out, like the rejection episode, but you want to make sure that you're looking in the playlist to try to find all of those. I know, it's kind of crazy.
I
was thinking
like
if I just kept going,
alone,
but then he put it in, but then he took it out?
I don't know what's
What
happening.
happened, Jeff? You didn't love me anymore? Easing it
There's
back.
easing it
Came
back.
in a little hot. Came in a little hot.
Came in a little hot.
Well, sometimes we like
hot.
it when it comes in hot. So you guys can come in hot all you want. Leave us
Yes.
those comments. That's how we talk about the things that we talk about.
Yes.
We see what you guys have to say, and we answer those questions here on air. So I will read more comments next week, but I know we have a jam-packed show today, so let's get back to the show.
Yep.
But if you do write a comment or a review, I will read it live on air.
Yes. So let's just cut to the beginning. How did Danny and I meet? So we were kind of trying to remember this. Danny doesn't remember 100%, and I really go back to this. I had just seen The Late Show, which was about David Letterman and Jay Leno.
Late Shift.
The Late Shift, I'm sorry.
The Late Show,
Shift, which is actually, I know, close enough, sorry. But, and I had known Danny's work, obviously, and I just thought, God, he just did such a phenomenal job. So within like a couple weeks, I was at an audition, and I saw Danny sitting, preparing on a couch, and I went over gingerly, and I just said, just want to say, I saw Late Shift. Congratulations. You did such a good job. And I think you had recognized me as well. We both said really kind words, and he said, thank you very much. And we chatted for a little bit. And then I don't know if we saw each other till the Wizards.
So Wizards
right?
of Waverly Place, yeah.
And that's a really good story. But we're teasing it, so we're going to save it. But we ran into each other on that. We became super...
You did Ghost?
Yeah, when I did a Ghost on Wizards of Waverly Place. And we'll talk about that a little later. I know you hate when I stop that kind of stuff, but it's such a fun story.
It's okay.
It's a
I'll
fun
let you
story.
have this one.
So,
so you went up to him at the audition to congratulate him on
Late Shift because he was so great. He was so fantastic.
Do you remember what the audition was for?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
That would be hard to
you
pull.
know, and then but then after that, once it's kind of one of those weird things in this town. You run into somebody on audition, and then all of a sudden you start to see them on a lot of different auditions and stuff. And so we were always really, friendly. And
you guys go up
stuff
for the same thing often?
Not now as much. We have in the last few years. We ran into each other a few times, but it's usually when they say like 45 to 65 all ethnicities, you know what I mean? And we'll run into each other because they'll have every shape and size and stuff like that. But we have on a couple things. We went out for, speaking of wizards, it was a wizard thing a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good that neither of us ended up in that.
Right, right.
But here's the thing about seeing, you go... Look, if you're a fan of films and you go to auditions, you have in front of you then all of these great actors, and I do the same thing you did that day, especially if there's something. Now look, we're all just trying the best we can. So
right.
if you can give another actor a little pick-me-up. You give them a little, dude, you're great.
Right.
I saw that. I didn't remember you were in it, and I saw it, and you were great, and I just wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, we're all working, trying to memorize the lines, but you give another actor a little kiss on the cheek, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a little blessing into their audition.
Yeah, yeah. And you certainly don't sit down and go, hey, what was it like? You know, because they're working. Everybody's working. Everybody's preparing. But it goes to attitude. And that was one of my first episodes, Danny. I said the right attitude for this business. I was saying you got to be flexible. You got to be open. You have to be curious. You have to have kind of a wide-eyed openness, a kind of a relaxation to know that there's going to be bumps in the road. You have one of the best attitudes of anybody I've ever worked with. Talk about why you feel, what kind of attitude has worked for you longevity-wise in auditions and on sets?
Well, I guess I could sum it up in a phrase. I have an attitude of gratitude.
Right.
I don't believe I deserve this.
Right.
But I certainly have earned this.
Okay.
You know, I don't know how esoteric we can get here, but I do believe that I am living the manifestation of God's will for me.
Okay.
As a child, I started at 6 years old started talking about being on TV when I'm on TV. When I'm on TV. Now I don't know where that comes from.
Right.
I'm some middle class kid in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, but I saw myself in that place.
Okay.
You really have no idea where that came from.
No, I watch TV a lot. Like every little kid, I like TV. I enjoy TV, and around that same time, I started realizing what actors did. I was watching horror movies. I was just infatuated with Frankenstein and the Wolfman, and then I started realizing, wait, that's Frankenstein in this movie, but wait, no, now he's Dr. Frankenstein in this movie. So I started, like, it was becoming there was a sentience to what actors did. Right. So I don't know where that came from, but I did talk about it a lot. And then I would say that I've made as many decisions as I could throughout the course of my career, from being 6 till now. I made decisions to get me in this position, to be speaking to you and everybody listening at home or in their car about how we do this. So I just kind of honored that intuition. I simply think my future was unfolded, and I think that's true of all of us.
Right.
And I just stuck with it.
Well, the other thing I've noticed about you, that you're just and I've talked about this, guys, when I talk about actors. You know, painters need to know colors, but actors need to know people and human beings. You are a fan of people. All people.
Absolutely.
In general, no, you're a fan of human beings.
I love meeting, and my dad, you know, what's funny is my dad said to me once, he goes, you know, you've got the perfect job because you like people.
Right.
And people, complete strangers, all have something to talk to you about.
Right.
So
yeah, in
I get to meet
chair
them. Or just, you know, were you on? Did we go to high school together?
Yeah.
Which leads to another conversation, which leads to, you know, I learn about them.
Yeah.
So you've got to know people. You also have to know acting. Like, you know what I mean? And I mean, you need to watch real acting, not now acting. You need to go backwards and watch, you know, Marlon Brando, and you need to watch Elizabeth Taylor, and you need to watch Orson Welles.
So you think that acting today is not as good as it was?
It's a great question. I think acting today is we're all living on the backs of our predecessors. Right. Even Tony Randall would say, you know, he was doing, you know, Randall would say, you know, I was doing the Thin Man in that delivery. You know, like we all go back and we steal from a previous great that we enjoyed. So I think that the actors now are living on, you know, if you watch Tom Hanks, you really watch him, you think he's watched James Stewart.
Yes.
Right?
Jimmy Stewart.
He's watched him. He knows what it is. He knows what it is about Stewart that was so likable. Yeah. And Tom Hanks will be that James Stewart for a new generation of actors.
And people would say Jim Carrey's doing Jerry Lewis, and, you know. Now, what would you say about someone like Daniel DayLewis? Like he's kind of a league of his own. Do you think?
I mean, Daniel DayLewis is such an interesting cat because there's a lot of Sturm and Drang over it, but it still sounded to me like I'm Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
So I thought that a year, that's right. Look, yesterday I was at Disneyland.
Okay.
And I watched the, animatronic Royal Dano version of that. And I thought, well, Royal Dano really seems like Lincoln, And by the way, I have a Royal Dano audition story.
Okay.
May I share it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Royal Dano.
So Royal Dano. Now this goes back to exactly what we're talking about. Watch how good I am at transitions, Roxy. Because you have to know other actors and their styles. So Royal Dano, folks, you may have watched the Ten Commandments
what would we
with
know
your
him
family.
from?
Well, he's the voice of God in Ten Commandments.
Okay.
He's the voice of Lincoln at Disneyland.
Okay.
But he's been in The Red Badge of Courage was his first major movie. He played Lincoln in an omnibus TV show. Royal Dano's literally had what you would know him in. He was the preacher in The Right Stuff.
Right.
And he was the teacher who always fell asleep in Teachers.
Okay.
But here's Royal Dano, who is a great character actor.
Okay.
And I go to an audition you may have auditioned, or you may not have been here yet. There was a cereal called Nut and Honey.
Okay.
What are you eating? Nut and Honey, and that was a joke. So it was a colonel and a soldier. What are you eating, soldier? Nut and Honey.
Right.
So we're at the audition, and I see Royal Dano, and I can't believe it. Now it's like 1986, 87.
Okay.
I go to Royal Dano, Mr. Dano. I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I have a picture of you on my wall.
Right.
He says, wait, what? And I said, I have a still of you and Tony Randall from Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe on my wall at home, like 5 blocks from here. Oh, my. So we talk about this and that for a few minutes because it's a commercial, so there's really nothing to learn. And then when they call Daniel Roebuck, and how about Royal Dano? So then I got to go act with him.
Wow.
Right? So
That's
now
exciting.
This isn't about an audition anymore. This is, I'm acting
With a dream of yours.
with a guy who's on my wall at home. That moment, I remember all of it. It hadn't. Who cares if I got the commercial?
Right.
I got Royal Dano. We walked to the car. A lesson for you and I, you too, Roxy, and everyone listening. I walk to the car and I say, Mr. Dano, it just seems weird to me that you have to audition for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Royal Dano tells me in 1986 or 7 everything I need to know about show business. Daniel, he says, these casting directors are young. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I've done. They don't know what I could do. So I have to prove who I am day in and day out, and I'll be doing that forever.
Wow.
That's us.
So the hustle never ends.
The hustle never ends. For a guy like that, I conceptually, I couldn't see. Now I completely understand.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll hustle every day, and I don't complain. I did a voiceover audition on the way here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll hustle.
Right.
And I like the hustle, which is,
right.
Kind of my theory on this, which we could get to.
Well, it's also kind of nice, but now there's such a nostalgia that we are actually now working with the young people who grew up with us, and you get the young person that knows you from way back and will use you now because they've seen you when they were young.
Right.
Which is kind of fun, too.
Now we're royal, but we still have to go and improve ourselves.
Yep, still got to go in.
By the way, to put it in perspective, that would have been, let's pick it as 1986.
Okay.
Right? So Lowe was probably 62.
Okay.
So that's 24 years, right?
Right.
You know what happened 24 years ago?
What?
I started in the late shift.
Wow.
So from the time the guy was starring in the movie that I had the thing on my wall till I met him was the same time as I did the late shift till now.
Wow.
So it's really not that long. And by the way, today's my daughter's birthday. An interesting tidbit about this is when we went to see Jay Leno the last week he was performing, because my daughter Grace was a fan, he goes, Dan, when did you do that movie, The Late Shift? And I said, oh my gosh, Jay, this will never happen again. But I have the perfect example of how long ago we did that. This person. Because my daughter was born the day after we stopped shooting.
Oh my God! So
exactly.
Funny.
So I know that I finished The Late Shift 24 years ago. Yesterday.
That is so wild.
And also, happy birthday to Grace.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Grace.
A nice kid.
Yeah.
So I'll be working for her one day. So let's brown nose up to her. That's my advice.
There you go.
Grace, happy birthday.
Yes, the
then.
happiest.
Rewinding for a second, though, because you talked about how important it is to know how to act, to have a technique, to train, and you talked about watching people people, but is there something else that you've done for training where you trained?
Did you
take
go to
acting class? Did you go to school?
Yeah, we did episodes on training and you know. But we did touch on, guys, there's an episode called No Acting Class, No Problem, and I talk about diving into movies, diving into plays, reading plays and stuff like that. And obviously Danny just touched on how important that is to be a fan of the craft that you're trying to get
the work that came before you.
Right,
When I was a little kid, well, the answer to your question is the only acting training I've ever formally had, I went to the Pennsylvania Governor's School for the Arts for 6 weeks in 1979, 40 years ago.
Okay.
And just visited the campus 2 weeks ago with my buddy Mick Trombley, who was one of the producers of Getting Grace, who I met at that school.
Wow.
But that's the entirety of my training. And I not only jumped into watching movies and TV shows, but I jumped into, through the blessings that I've experienced, jumped into creating movies and TV shows. And,
right.
I should be the
exception to the rule.
Yeah, I'm the exception that proves the rule.
Right.
You know what I mean? But please, yes, find someone like Sean, who is, I can't stress this enough, man. Do your due diligence. If your acting teacher is going to tell you how to perform a close-up in movies, and he's selling you the fact that he could teach you how to do a close-up in movies, and you look him up on IMDb, and he's played waiter 2 and juror number 4. They've
Right.
never given him a close-up.
Right.
So he doesn't know how to do a close-up.
Right.
Sean Whalen is a star of movies and television shows. So do your due diligence with that. That sounds like a commercial for Sean, but for whoever you're studying with, cut through the bullshit.
Right, and we did an episode on that as well when we talked about when you're finding a teacher, we believe that you should work with a teacher who has worked. Experience is very, very important. So.
Well, in this, now, by the way, you could find an acting teacher who's hasn't worked.
Right.
Lee Strasberg,
Sure.
seems to have been Uta Hagen. They were both actors sometimes, but they taught more than they acted. But if you're going to learn film and television techniques,
right,
or if you're learning stage techniques, that person better have been on
some stage, a lot of stage. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so jumping into specifics, and this was one that I thought about. That you and I did a thing about preparing for an audition. I went into an audition, I think I told the story on that one, where I wore a wig, and because it was a fantastic wig that I got on Charlie's Angels. And it was so good, and it was so right for this part. I went in, and I got lambasted. The feedback was, don't ever come in with a wig and stuff like that. Then I saw you at an audition where you were fully dressed up with this wizard thing, and you had the hair and everything.
What are you talking about, the wizard thing?
There was some independent movie that was comedic or something, and there was a comedic wizard, and Danny...
He was dressed as a wizard.
He had the full long hair and the long beard and stuff like that, and I thought, wow, I was told not to do that. And do you do that all the time? Do you not do it sometimes? Like, what is your thought process on the...
I do it 100% of the time, and I'm gonna tell you something, Sean.
And you've told me this, and I know what you're going to say because you said it to me.
I don't know what he's going to say.
All right, you're going to
The audition is mine. The audition is not theirs.
Okay.
I say the audition is the job. I'm writing a book called "The Audition Is the Job." And
fantastic. I've heard him talk about this
truths
stuff.
I've learned in the land of make believe. So, look, the audition is mine, and the point of it is, how do I feel like the character?
Okay.
And I can't play a befuddled wizard if I don't have my beard. Now, I didn't wear a wizard robe.
No.
But I did have a long black coat on.
Yep.
And I keep a big closet filled with costumes.
Okay.
You would say that I could wear. So I've always dressed for the part 100% of the time. 100% of the time it worked for me. To speak to what the feedback you got, Sean, this is one thing that we gotta... I respectfully say, if a casting director says never or always, they're out of line.
Okay.
If an acting teacher says never or always, they're out of line.
Expand on that. What do you mean?
There are exceptions to every rule, and one casting director doesn't want to see you in a wig, and the other 500 would love it.
Okay.
So why would that casting director say, and I know these casting director seminars, they say always, always, never, never.
Right.
But you listener,
Are the artist.
Okay. So what you do, with respect and always being gracious, that's my rule. If you do it with respect, you went in there wearing a wig out of respect for them because that's what you felt would be perfect.
Okay.
Point in fact, there's a very funny commercial, Geico commercial in which
Is that the Alexander Graham Bell? Did you dress that way?
Completely. I had
because we saw this commercial. My girlfriend and there's a Geico commercial and he's sitting in a theater box seat, right?
Right.
And it's very funny.
But the play's going on.
The play's going on.
Phone rings.
And the phone rings and it's Alexander Graham Bell. And my girlfriend and I, Sheena, who Danny knows very well, we're laughing and I go, "Oh my God, that's Danny."
We've been waiting for your call.
No. I say ahoy hoy. I go, no, this is number 1. You want number 2. 2, I say. All right, that's my Alexander Graham Bell. By the way, Alexander Graham Bell, one of the nicest human beings ever, and I've turned him into a complete douchebag in this commercial. But I went with the wig and the beard and the long coat. I can get you a picture if you want to put it up online. And I'll tell you something else. When I auditioned, I saw it said the callbacks are this day. And I knew I was going to be in Pennsylvania on that day. So when they called back with the callback, I said, I can't be there. And the agent said, well, you should fly back from Pennsylvania. It's Geico. And I said, I have something I'm doing, like I was working on my movie.
Yeah.
I said, I can't fly back. I'm sorry. I said, can't you just get me the commercial? This is how naive I am because I don't ever do commercials. And he goes, in 24 years, I've never had an actor book a commercial without a callback. And then the next day, they called it out for me, the part. Now, why? Because they saw I was the guy.
Right.
Because I had a beard and a mustache. And I colored my hair. My hair was brown then. I colored it gray to match the beard and the mustache.
Right.
And I looked like, Alexander
You
Graham
colored
Bell.
your hair for the audition.
Yeah, there's so many techniques. Actors should get the Richard Corson book on makeup.
Okay.
It's an old book. It's been reprinted 40 times. There's so many techniques that you could use to color your hair, paint your hair. You can't take dark hair and make it blonde, but you could take brown hair and make it gray. I could take blonde hair and make it brown.
That's amazing.
Women can do it too. Women can do it as well as men.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that because I was listening to, who's Third Rock from the Sun? John Lithgow. John Lithgow, and he was Lithgow, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, he says Lithgow. He reads it in Lithgow. Never says Lithgow. But he was talking about a table read and it was an Appalachian kind of play, and it was, these kind of poor family with this, kind of a frail girl, dirty hair. And he just said, oh, my God, this girl. For the table read, he goes, he obviously plucked a real girl from Appalachia, blah, blah, blah. Then he saw her 2 weeks later, and it was a sophisticated play, and he realized it was the same woman, and it was young Meryl Streep. Oh, so she walked in, just a table read, looking so much like the person.
Wow.
So he said it was amazing. And she just came from Yale Drama School. So
now I don't see, everybody's actually telling you the opposite. They're saying what they're saying to you. Don't do that.
Yeah. So I've always heard a suggestion of the character.
Right. But that's all bullshit that goes back to like reading Michael Shurtloff's Audition or How to Audition. The only 2 books we have on how to do this have fomented these ridiculous ideas in the last 40 years of how to audition. All of those books tell you what not to do, how not to be stupid. Michael Shurtloff, a very good acting teacher by all accounts and a very successful casting director.
Okay.
He wrote his book was, written for people auditioning for Broadway theater. And, don't hold the sides.
Right.
And he said, don't hold the sides. They may think it's your final performance. Well,
right.
Give me a break. Your final performance is when the director goes, Sean, you got another one in. No, not even that.
Right.
The final performance is, you got another one in here? You're good? You're good, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving on. Then the first AD says something funny. We're on the wrong set. And then everybody moves. And you're never going to get to do your final performance is when the director says it is.
Right.
On the set. After you get the job, not at an audition. It's ridiculous. These are ridiculous notions. I'm sorry.
I love this.
On the same idea, River's Edge. Now, I came to Hollywood in February of 1984. I started my first movie in September of 1984, and then the second time I had an opportunity to read for a real movie was I starred in Cave Girl, a teenage sex comedy, in which there were no teenagers' sex, and it wasn't funny at all. And that's not my fault, by the way. There's a lot of people to blame for that, not me. But the second movie was River's Edge, where I was going to play this despondent killer.
Right.
Now, I didn't.
And what year was that one in?
This was the very next year, so this would have been 85. And in the late summer, early fall of 85. And so, I'm like, this is me. I'm like a avuncular, happy person.
Sure.
And I back then wore glasses. My wife was a little older than me, so we were not like a normal, typical, young Hollywood couple. Excuse me. And for the audition, and I never had an acting class. And by the way, if I had, they would have said, don't do this. And if I would have read Michael Shurtloff's book, it would have said, don't do this. For the audition, I didn't go in as me. And then I wasn't like, hi, I'm Danny. Hi, how are you? Okay, no, I'm the despondent killer.
Right.
No, I got this, an old trick, learned from Bowser and Sha-Na-Na. I put KY jelly in my hair to make it look greasy. I went and got old clothes, and I wore a rock shirt that I got off Melrose Avenue secondhand. I walked in there, and I had two cans of beer in my pocket, and I walked past the chair that was set up for me, and I sat in the corner of a room that I had never been in before, and I popped that beer, and I'm saying this is 1984. I wouldn't take a real beer into an audition now.
Right.
I popped that beer, or 85, and I started drinking it, and I said to the director, and this is, I can remember 10 o'clock in the morning, first audition. I'm drinking the beer, and I say to the director, go ahead. And it's Tim Hunter. He grabs his camera, which back then was like, grabbing a Volkswagen and putting it on his shoulder.
Right.
And he had no idea. He thought like they plucked Meryl Streep out of Appalachia.
Yeah.
He thought that Carrie Fraser found me somewhere. He didn't see Cave Girl, thank God, or I wouldn't have had the job. But then the end of that story is, months later, they cast me, and I went in and I took a bottle of wine for him and Carrie Fraser to the production office.
Yeah.
I handed him the wine. He said, this is very nice. Who's this from? And I
That's
said,
hilarious.
It's from me. And he was like, I said, I'm Dan Roebuck.
Wow.
And I learned a valuable lesson. I could have lost the job that day.
Okay.
Because I let him see what I really look like.
Right.
And he saw my older wife, and I was wearing a suit coat and my glasses.
Right.
Crazy.
So you shouldn't have done that?
I would say I wouldn't have done that until after we started shooting.
Right.
Lesson learned.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now that's an amazing. Listen, that is something that look at your resume. Obviously, it's worked for you. Obviously, it can't work 100% of the time, or
Well, I mean, we're working actors, right? So if I have, you said 200 some things,
40.
240, that means I've auditioned 2,400.
Yeah, exactly. Right. 10%, 10 to 15%,
yeah.
as they say, a working actor is
Yeah.
10 to 15%.
Now, luckily now, most of my work is offered, so
right,
that's
me too.
That's what you work up to, right?
Right.
But back then, yeah, you were. If you were 1 for 10, you were a genius.
Yeah, you were great. You were great. But listen, that's a really great. I mean, it's a great advice, and it certainly gave me pause, because when I saw the Geico commercial, I turned to Sheena and I go, I guarantee you he went in there looking like that. I guarantee you, because no one
right.
would look at you and go, oh, Alexander. Do you know what I mean?
Right. No, not
and
at
I
all.
said, I guarantee you he did that. And I go, man, one of these days I'm going to talk to him about that. And I waited till today, and here we are.
Do you know what's funny? And at that audition, there was a great actor who's a great commercial actor who I've known for years, bumping into him since the mid '80s. And I don't want to say his name because he didn't get the part, so I don't want to throw him under the bus like that.
Right.
But when I went in for that thing and I wore the costume and I had it all, and I go in, and the there were two people behind me, and it's what I notice a lot in the very few commercial auditions I've been to is people don't listen to what the guy or girl says.
Right.
So the guy was very specific, and we shot it, and he was like, okay, you two, but you didn't,
you didn't do what I told you.
You didn't do what I told you. And then he said to the one guy, he goes, you know what, I want you to, you're going to play Belle. Okay, Dan, thanks. And so I went, wait a minute. How about we do it again? And we get everybody to do it the way you want it. And then we put the guy in. Because I'm thinking the guy just watched my take. And by the way, my take of the, making him like this idiot. That wasn't written. That was me.
That was you making your choice.
So, rewind, I'm kind of confused.
Yeah,
so you went in.
You went in.
You went in with a group of people who are auditioning.
Okay.
Because you were doing some kind of chemistry.
There were three people. And as we walked in, Larry, As we walked in, the other fella, Jerry Ferry, had just finished being one of the other people, and the guy said, "Just hang out here, person. I want to read you as Belle."
Because you had read as Belle, and they didn't like it.
No,
they liked it.
No,
they liked. He just saw that other guy just saw what he did.
Right, and they liked what I did, but. I'm sorry. We're going to begin again. I go into the room. The other people are leaving. The guy who I'm talking about, who is a recognizable commercial actor, was reading for one of the secondary characters, not Belle. He said, I'm going to want you to read for Belle. Just sit there. Let's shoot Dan. And then he put the other two secondary characters in. And the secondary characters made a mistake. And he was like, oh, well, okay. So, and then he was going to have me leave and put the other guy in with those secondary characters. And I said, wait. Because sometimes you have to respectfully, may I please do it again where we all do what you want us to do. And then I know him for a long time.
But why would they have asked you to leave if they had liked your read?
Because my audition was over, and then they were going to give the second half of my audition to the other guy.
Right.
But I had to stop and say,
you stood up for yourself.
Well, graciously.
Yeah.
Can I please? And then it also bugged me that guy then saw my magic act.
Right.
And he could have just done my magic act.
Yep.
As it turned out, again, it seems, I don't want these stories to sound self-aggrandizing. I want the point to be made that I graciously stood up for myself.
Yeah.
Not arrogantly.
Right.
And it,
that's
put
important.
A lot of money in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's important. Mr. Fantabulous, we have no clock in here, so if I could just in terms of the timer.
Copy
that. Okay? Thank you. All right, so here's another thing that's been a very big... I don't know what that says.
This is 3:52, Sean.
Okay.
Well, we don't know when we started.
No, we do. We know that we have 8 minutes left, Sean.
We got 8 minutes left.
8 minutes in this whole show?
We got 8 minutes left.
No, we haven't been going on for...
we've been going on for a little while.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
Production, baby.
But
Peek behind the curtains.
Before we, I just want to, then a quick thing on, and then we're going to get into our set story. Tell me about the importance, and this has been a theme recently on our shows, creating your own content, and why do you feel that's so important?
Oh, yes. Well, hey, people, listen to me. When we did Cave Girl, it cost $500,000 to make even a crappy movie.
Right.
But back then, even a crappy movie was conceptualized and filmed for one reason, to play somewhere. So... Cave Girl was going to play somewhere because nobody would spend that money and have the movie not ever play.
You mean theater, festival?
Theater, yeah, no, not festivals. No, none of that. Theaters, movie theaters.
Oh.
Keisters in the seats, kids. Roxy. Drive-in movies. It was called Cave Girl. It probably didn't play many real movie theaters.
Right.
But yes, create your own content. Why? Because you can. Number one. 2, it's cheaper than it's ever been. But if you create your content, hey man, watch something good. Watch Schindler's List if you're going to make something about the Holocaust.
Right.
Because if you make it crappy, no one's going to watch it because they know what a Holocaust movie should look like. And by the way, if you need a cheap idea, I've never understood this. Go to any Starbucks, new Starbucks. They look, who decided that the inside of a Starbucks with wooden walls and hanging lights, why does it look like Auschwitz where I'm having my coffee?
Yeah.
No, it's weird.
Crazy.
How come
weird.
How come it's not nice?
Yeah.
And looks like the woods.
They don't want you to hang out anymore.
Evidently, they want you out of there.
I don't know if Starbucks looks like Auschwitz.
You go into your next Starbucks and look around, and you're going to be like, "There's wood on the wall. It says." There's a thing that says shower room. I mean, it's very inappropriate.
There's air conditioning in the room. I think we're still good. As long as the AC is going.
Right, exactly.
The Jews feel comfortable in Starbucks.
There you go.
I endorse this message.
But right.
For my people.
But it's but I think there's something ethereal about it in that you're showing there's a positive energy that goes out, and I believe that brings in more work. Every time that I've tried to do something on my own, good stuff has happened to me outside because there's some kind of positive force that's going out and coming back.
And the force is creativity, my friend.
Right.
You're creating something. You're an actor, a creator. You're an artist.
Right.
You're an artist. By the way, if you're working at that Starbucks, you're still an artist.
Right.
So you better make that latte as beautifully as you can. So often we think everything's about art. I mentor actors all the time for free, by the way. And the thing they always say is, well, I ask, are you married? Is there kids? Is there a wife? Is there a boyfriend?
Right.
Do you volunteer? No. It's all about my career. No, folks, we're people. We're humans.
Right.
You've got to be part of the world to be able to earn the right to create.
Right.
So when you create whatever you create, I'm making 2 points. Yes, create your own work, and if you're not creating your own work, find a way to ensure that the creativity is alive in any task you perform.
Right. In anything that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And Garry Marshall did talk about that a lot in his book. The Happy Days cast was happy and grateful and gracious. And unfortunately, they were thrown into it really quick with Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams. It was overwhelming. And so they had kind of a miserable set experience on that show because they weren't ready for it. They were insecure about certain things. They weren't, ready for the thing. And it was a big dichotomy. So it's very interesting you say that. Let me get into how Danny and I were working together. So we hadn't seen each other. And it was
Story from the set?
This was from Stories from the Set. Yes, that's my transition. Stories from by just saying it out loud.
Yeah. My transition is thus for. Stories from the Set.
Stories from the Set. My story from the set this week is, so we had run into each other maybe a couple more times, but I remember going, wow, I'm going to do a Disney Channel show. All right, that's okay. I got the part.
So
and then
after you book Wizards of Waverly
Place, we're sitting down for the table read, and this is one of my favorite moments with Danny ever. And I sat down, and he sits down right across from me, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is, I felt like your moment where you're like, why are you auditioning for this? Or what? And I said, what are you doing here? And he goes, what are you doing here, brother? I'm working as an actor.
At the table read?
At the table read. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, and we laughed so hard, and we just had the funnest week. We had so much fun together on that thing. And then a few years later...
But Sean, to explain a little bit, what are you doing here? You're asking that because it's like a Disney Channel.
Yeah, why am I slumming?
Yeah, right, because I felt like you did about your hero.
That's such a crazy thought process, though, because I think that's a lot of people's dreams to be on one of those shows.
But he had kids like I had kids.
Yeah, we were. I was a movie star, and I was playing a secondary character to a bunch of teenagers. By the way,
on a Disney show.
On a Disney show, but we were both smart enough to know that it was the most popular Disney show.
Absolutely.
Everyone watched it.
Everyone watches it.
I get recognized for that show all the time. That Wizards of Waverly. And so it was the humbling thing, and I know, Danny works and is grateful to show up anywhere and be an actor, always. And that's what I said. He's a fan of the craft. He's a fan of people, and he doesn't judge. He doesn't, flip his nose up at things. He just dives in and loves the people and the experience and always feels like he can take something away from it. And so that was really great. And then cut to a couple years later, Danny on Lost had one of the best deaths on the show. He explodes. I don't know, Mr. Fantabulous, you might know that. Were you a Lost fan?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
JJ.
Really
Dr. Arst.
You don't realize how big of a Lost fan I am. We've been doing this show together
Really?
for a very long time.
I did not. Really?
Biggest.
How did
Top
I
three
not
show
know
for
that?
me. Yeah.
Okay, but you remember Dr. Arst blowing up, right? And then they brought me in, and people said, he's the best death since Dr. Arst, because I say, there's no fire, as a flaming arrow goes into my chest, you know? And so Danny and I were known as the two
death.
great,
the death duo.
The death duo.
What a good thing to be known
And
as.
we were hanging out
We
in
love
Hawaii.
when they die.
We were hanging out in Hawaii because it was the last season when they were showing everybody, bringing everybody back. And Danny and I were seeing Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 because we were both in that. Now, we didn't work at the same time, but we were in Hawaii filming Lost and went to a theater to see Halloween 2, which we were both in. And that was another great trip. We had just a fantastic time. And so the kismet of the weird things that you run into each other all the time.
I not only do I consider you a great friend, I mean, I consider you a great actor.
Thank you.
And in fact, this next movie I'm going to make, people could go to see my last movie called Getting Grace. They could
Very sweet movie, wonderful, that he wrote and directed.
Thank you. They could go to gettinggracethemovie.com.
Named after your daughter?
Yes, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. But this next movie I'm making,
Yep.
I not only thought about Sean for a role, I wrote a role for Sean. So it's not, you understand, you guys, the connections you make are potentially forever connections. So when I sat down, I would think, how would Sean say this funny? And what would Sean do? Because I needed his talent in my movie. So I created something so good for him that he can't say no.
Can't.
So that's the long and short of it, everybody.
Yeah,
you know.
we've just scratched the surface. There's going to be more in the
I come back?
future.
We have
Yes.
to. I was just thinking that.
Yeah,
I didn't
just-
even get to ask you about your 240 projects that you've been a
Well,
part
And
of.
I'd like to talk about them individually.
Yes. 240 more episodes with you, Danny.
Well, we have, listen, the biggest takeaway, I think this audition, the audition thing, it's a great tease for your book. I love, even I learned a huge thing today by listening to you and the way you attack your auditions. Just that alone is a huge takeaway. There's going to be more from Danny. There's a new show that I'm going to be doing that I'm going to have Danny on. Plus, of course, we'll have you back on here with other subjects because I know Roxy is chomping at the bit for other questions. But in the meantime, Danny, where can people find you or reach out to you?
Oh, thank you for asking. Mr. Daniel Roebuck on Instagram. They could go to Daniel Roebuck on Facebook. And they should also check out Star Wars.
Yes, very exciting.
Jedi Fallen Order. I'm one of the main guys in that, and you'll enjoy me. I'm Grease Drydas, the pilot of the Mantis.
Great.
That is crazy and has all of my nerd things happening.
Yes,
right now.
yes.
So
I like
great.
that.
And where do we find you?
Everywhere at Roxy Striar.
Mr. Fantabulous.
Everywhere at Jeffrey C. Graham or Instagram, Jeffrey Crane Graham.
And at that guy SMW on Instagram and Twitter, and Sean Whalen Peeps on Facebook. Or if you're interested in acting, I am only working with actors who are actually pursuing a career in it. You can reach out to me at SeanWhalenBiz@gmail.com if you are interested in that kind of coaching. As always, thank you for letting me be part of your journey.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.